Hello and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. Tonight we will be discussing about a topic that transcends borders and ideologies. That is girls' education in Muslim communities. When we talk about this topic, of course, this was at the heart of a recent international conference that was organized in Islamabad, which was, of course, on girls' education in Muslim communities, challenges and opportunities. When we talk about girls' education in Muslim communities, the stats are not very good in regards to Pakistan, where 22.8 million children are out of school. And when we look at the stats regarding girls' children, of course, the stats are lower. Pakistan's stats with regard to education is not very good when we compare it to the regional peers. When we talk about this conference, of course, this was a way forward in terms of that leaders and scholars from 47 countries participated in this conference, and which resulted in Islamabad Declaration. In today's program, we'll be talking about the way forward, of course, in regards to girls' education in Muslim communities, what are the challenges and what needs to be done in this regard. Of course, to discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by Mufti Imran Sandhu, who is religious scholar. Welcome to the program. We are also joined in the studios by Ms. Fajar Rabia Pasha, who is girls' education activist. Welcome to the program. And we are joined online by Dr. Rashida Jabeen, who is human rights activist. Welcome to the program. Mufti Saab, let me start with you. Of course, when we talk about this very important issue, there are a lot of misconceptions, not only in the West, but also in the Muslim countries regarding girls' education. How significant, in your opinion, was this conference in dispelling those misconceptions?
Yeah, awakening of the right cause is one of the first steps towards, the real ideology of what Islam tells about the role of women and their education in the Islamic society. In Islamic society, we find lots of inferences and lots of evidence from the era of Prophet, peace be upon him, as well as the era of the four caliphs, Khulafai Rashideen, where women have actively participated in not only the learning activities with Prophet but also teaching activities. And it is not only confined to the teaching activities, but also performance activities, like performing like a doctor, like a nurse. So the core of our religion is Iqra. The first ever word revealed to Prophet, peace be upon him, was Iqra. And the first person who he shared this word was with his wife,
Hazrat Khadija.
Khadija, who actively not only supported him on the ideological side, but also the financial side initially. She funded Prophet's lots of missions that he made towards taking Islam to not to the Arabic lands, but outside of Arabic lands as well. You see Prophet's wife, Salama, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she has almost taught the Ummah 2200 sayings of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, without which the deen is not complete. So similarly, Salama used to go and teach in the masjid. There's lots of jahala over here in this era, where we think that education is the right to education is only for men, but that is not true Islamically. Women must have a greater right, because any child born to a mother will be on her lap for the first 4 years. The first ever education institute, the Montessori in Islamic world, is mother's lap. So if women are educated, as she, I remember an incident, one of the Prophet's, Sahabiya, asked Prophet, like, men are taking most of your time, what about us? Please dedicate a time for us. And Prophet agreed to it and dedicated a day for women education. So it is it is imperative, if we know about Quran, if we know about Hadith, if we know about how society worked in those
That
days.
is very important, but let me take the discussion to Fajar. Fajar, when we talk about, of course, Islam, it teaches us that men and women have equal right to education. But this was the first conference. How do you see this as a significant step as girls' right to education, and also what are, in your opinion, some of the key barriers that were discussed in this conference, and how, in your opinion, these barriers vary across different countries across the globe where Muslim communities reside specifically?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for having me here today. The first of in terms of the conference and it being the first international conference for girls' education in the Muslim community. So we weren't just talking about Pakistan at the conference. We were talking about every single Muslim country in the globe. And I feel this was extremely important. It was a big honor for Pakistan to be hosting that, to be the center point of that conversation. As in girls' education activist, I saw this as such a positive move, because this will not only have a huge impact in Pakistan but across the world. There have been multiple issues. There has been a global perception that Muslim communities don't allow girls' education. That's the global perception. So doing this conference at this scale, engaging every single Muslim country has changed that perception. Because
especially the scholars and the muftis and the ulamas.
Absolutely. And this was such a positive step. This was such a big step. And I congratulate sincerely the government of Pakistan for hosting this conference, because this subject has been very much ignored in the past. So this was very positive, very, very productive. And as you're talking about the challenges, there are multiple challenges that girls face, not just in Pakistan, but globally. And the conference was very open, where every speaker talked about these challenges very openly and committed to address them. So it was very heartening to see that everybody had that very clear understanding that what the problems are and how we can address them. So for example, such as, there are cultural barriers which are not religious barriers. You see, like Mufti Sahib said, the religion, Islam, actually encourages learning. And there is no division there, if it's for women or for men, it's for everyone. So first of all, I think that message was put out very, very clearly to everyone, to the communities everywhere, that Islam encourages girls' education and women's education and their participation. Secondly, understanding that where there are challenges, there needs to be the right investment for the girls in education. And the whole Muslim community, the OIC, the World Muslim League, they came together and they made a commitment in the conference, and they signed a partnership agreement to make sure that girls' education in the Muslim world is funded properly. And that is a big commitment, and we should see a lot of difference now, inshallah.
We'll be talking about the implementation and the outcomes of Islamabad Declaration.
Yes.
But Dr. Rashida, when we talk about out-of-school children in Pakistan, the figures are staggering, like over 22.8 million children are out of school, and of which most are girls. Let's talk about the key barriers in your opinion. Of course, there is poverty, there is cultural barriers, like of course Fajar also alluded to earlier. In your opinion, what are those key barriers? And like I also asked earlier, that how do you think that they vary across different regions or different areas across Muslim countries or communities?
Thank you, Maryam. Actually, Fajar has added very much and very well elaborated. I will add some statistics about girls out of the school. They are 41.5%. at the primary, higher, and the secondary level of the education. And Pakistan stands on the 135 of the number out of the 146 countries, and this data is from the Global Gender Gap Index 2022. That this situation is, I think, very thought-provoking that Pakistan is lagging behind due to the cultural, social, and religious constraints. And this summit has definitely will be proved. I don't think so. This summit is and a flash in the pan. It will be holding a very bright prospect in the coming ways, inshallah. And I forgot the second part of the question was, I think it was about.
Right. Dr. Rashida, how do you think that these barriers vary across different regions or different countries, especially Muslim countries across the globe, or also the communities of Muslims in different countries where Muslims are in minorities? How do you think these barriers vary? Because in some countries we see poverty is an issue, in other countries there maybe some other issues. So what are some of the major themes that you can identify?
Okay, if we talk about the countries who were in the summit, Muslim, definitely they were the Muslim countries. But when I have came across with the data and the different articles, I got an information that more or less all are facing similar issues. Some have poverty, some have cultural constraints, some have the gender role gaps, and some have the absence of the infrastructure. So I think when we are going to because it's an because they are going to it's an joint effort and it's a joint venture. They were, if they share a plan that will eradicate the hurdles and the obstacles that come in the way of the girls' education. Uh, we can't replicate things as it is in every country or in every region, because we will have to consider the cultural context of the region. And even in Pakistan, if you observe that in a rural and the urban setting, the education level is different. Even in different region, the urban and the rural girls have the different education level. So the plan can't be replicated, but it's a joint effort, but and that can be very beneficial. And keeping in point the cultural context.
Right. Rightly pointed out that, of course, when we look at the rural, of course, the population,
allow me to
the
add,
figures stand at
yes.
9.5, which is very, alarming.
13.7 million girls, which is the most up-to-date data that we have, right, are the girls under the age of 16 who are out of school. Now, there are multiple reasons, right? So, poverty, access, we're talking all about, but one of the key, very latest issue that we cannot ignore is climate. So, for example, when we had the floods in 2022, there was a large number of girls, much more girls dropped out of education than the boys. 3 million children at that time.
Because when there is poverty, they would rather have their girl child out of school rather than the boy.
And the girls have more responsibility given at home to take care of the house, to take care of the smaller children. So there's multiple issues. And then you know, when we're looking at globally in Muslim communities, we know wars are playing a major part, where schools are closed down or schools are bombed. And it's not one issue. It's a lot of problems that are there, and whenever there is a problem, there is the impact of that problem multiplies when it comes to girls' education.
Right. We will be coming back to that, but I want to bring in Mufti Imran into the discussion. Mufti Sahab, when we discuss about the outcomes of this conference, of course, Islamabad Declaration mentions Charter of Makkah and the Charter of Building Bridges. Charter for Building Bridges in promoting educational equity. What is the significance of these two charters?
I think if we look into these two charters, it will definitely not only create awareness, but also propose some kind of a financial structure as well that is going to come into play for making this the Muslim community around the world as a ummah, they should given opportunities where no even one single girl is left out of education. I think this is going to go play a long, a very positive role in these two charters in helping giving funds, giving an infrastructure, and giving some kind of an environment what goes around comes around, that is going to increase. I would say for every boy who's out of the school, the reason, if you go and fetch the reason, is a mother who is not gone to the school. So a mother who is going to who goes to the school will make sure not only women education is going to increase, rather the education of boys are also going to increase, because a learned woman will never let his child come out of the school. So it is going to be a very, very good benefit. There's going to be lots of benefits that are going to pop out of this, these conferences and these declarations. In the era of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I always try to refer back. Umar Raziyallahu Ta'ala An appointed one of the Sahabiyas, Shifa bint Abdullah, as a market supervisor because she knew the job. So this means if Umar Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu is appointing a lady worker as a supervisor, so he saw leadership in that woman, and also gave her big response. Supervising a market is a very, very difficult job for enhancing the food quality. Another example that I would like to tell is Hafsa bint Umar was interested to write the Quran itself. So women played a very important role in conservation of the Quran as well. So you find learned women around Islamic history since the era of Prophet, then Khulafai Rashideen, and all around in 1400 years. But unfortunately, somehow here in the Indo-Pak, here we have not actually done the right thing as far as women education is concerned. They don't know about.
Right, and what, in your opinion, Mufti Sahab, are the reasons behind that, and how significant is the role of ulama, scholars, for bringing up these examples of from Islamic history to serve as a role model, not only for the Muslim communities, but for other communities across the globe as well, because we are talking here about not for educational equality, but for educational equity, that both genders have the same brains, same smarts, and they can do all the same things in terms of brains.
Right. So, ulama have always been advocating the, female education. How would they not do it? The reason is obvious. They themselves narrate all the 2200 ahadith from Aisha. They take her as their teacher. So ulama would never, say anything against it. The problem over here is feudal culture. The feudal lord does not want people to get educated, and and even women are more deprived because of his mindset. वो घर पे रहें, वो घर पे रहें, घर पे रह के काम करें. But I think to have an educated nation, if we want to excel, we need educated mother.
Right, that is very important. And Dr. Rashida, when we talk about this important point, the role of ulama, we cannot forget Afghanistan in this aspect, because we are talking about Muslim communities, and we know that although Afghanistan was invited in this important conference, but they did not participate in it. How do you see this? And also, like Mufti Saab alluded to, the significance of girls' education, women education on a country country or for a society, how do you think this is going to be impacting the future of Afghanistan, not only the girl children of Afghanistan, but the overall future of Afghanistan if they are not educated?
Yes, Afghanistan was, they have so-called religious regime now, and they banned women education, and only to the primary level, because they have domesticated women to specific her role. And if Afghanistan is not going to change their behavior regarding women and women's education, definitely the half of its population will be lag behind, and that will impact their overall country progress and the economic rate. And when we come about to the benefits of the women education, it's definitely going to extend the gender roles along her domestic role. I will add here Malaysia. When I was going through the information and the data, they increased their women literacy rate increased due to some changes in their school system. The first is they change their syllabus, their school environment, their stereotypical teacher behavior, and they converted into the gender neutral syllabus, because they were not going to grow up new generation only restricted to the domestic role, because they have clearly analyzed the situation that in this era, if when there are globalization and technological changes, if you want to compete with the world, if you want to go side by side the other nations, definitely you will have to educate the half of your population. And increase in the level of the women education definitely increase the human development outcome. This is the child survival, health and schooling. And lower female education has very negative impact on the economic growth, and it lowers the average level of the human capital. And additionally, I will say the denial of women education prospects perpetuates poverty, ignorance, and marginalization of the half of your population. So this summit has a very significant effects, and if we are going to continue with that, I don't think so. Okay, it's an flash in the pan. I hope.
Right, that remains an important aspect. But Fajar, when we talk about education in Muslim communities, we cannot forget the schools that are being bombed in Gaza, and 90% schools have been destroyed in Gaza. How do you see this situation? And also, of course, when we talk about Muslim communities, Muslim countries collaborating not only among themselves, but with the international community in this regard.
I mean, like you said, Israel has bombed 90% of the schools. That's like bombing the foundation of the society. So it's you know, for me, they have very strategically done that, because it will take so much longer for Palestine to recover from what is happening right now, because their basic infrastructure, education infrastructure, has been destroyed, and children are not learning right now, may that be girl or a boy. So something that I think, you know, international community, everyone, regardless Muslim or non-Muslim, need to ensure that it stops happening. And then the other thing is, you know, with the, as we were talking about Afghanistan, for example, you know, that ban is so tragic, because on one end, they want their women to be treated by female doctors. And then, but they do not want these girls to be educated and become doctors.
The irony of it.
I mean, you think that what exactly are you trying to do? What big plan do you have in place? Are you going to have all these robots then now treating the women? What's going to happen? So there are a lot of issues, there are a lot of challenges, and there are a lot of, you know, I feel that, you know, not just in Pakistan, but globally, we can do these things, and international community and Muslim community needs to come together. We live in an era of globalization now, and what can't happen is that you could have a major part of the world, you know, a major community in the world separated from rest of the world. We need to work together, we need to be integrated, we need to be putting our positive messages out. The Muslim history is so rich. You know, Mufti Sahib has already given some excellent example, and one of my most favorite example always is that the first university in the world was founded by a Muslim woman. Her name was Fatma something in Morocco. I don't want to quote her name wrong, but you know, we have got excellent examples, excellent rich history that, you know, this, I feel this conference has sort of, you know, brought us all back together, has really highlighted how the religion promotes girls' education, how we can address these problems, and the charter is very, very clear in terms of what exactly will happen and how we will achieve this now as a community, as a global community. And when our girls are educated, when our women are educated, they're better mothers, they invest back in community more than their male counterpart. You know, they can contribute economically, not just in Pakistan, I'm, you know, talking in context globally, contribute majorly. You know, we have such a huge talent pool, I would say, that we're not utilizing at all.
Right. Right, we are not utilizing it all, but Mufti Imran, I would get back to the point regarding Afghanistan, that there are still segments that are using Islam. Of course, as a hindering, you know, a factor for stopping girls' education. Do you think that fatwas or religious scholars can do something about it?
I am not in a position to talk about what is happening in Afghanistan because I have not been to Afghanistan, neither I have met them in a long period now.
But we do know that there is clear ban on girls' education.
But whatever is happening over there, I would just as a you know, student of knowledge, would advise the Afghan authorities to make sure that every female child born to their land should be given highest possible you know, independent opportunity to take not only the primary education or the secondary education, but also you know, their needs, there is a need for them to impart you know, spiritual knowledge as well as intellectual knowledge as well as material knowledge to them, because you know, women are buying their dresses, they need their dresses to be sewn into factories. So who's going to be the best person to create factories who are creating dresses for them, who are creating, you know, business, the 50% of the utilities that they want to have in industry, whether it's carpet making or whether it's you know, home making, home utensils. I think women can play a very good role. They should be in education, they should be in health, they should be in medicine, they should be in, you know, in all kind of lives. We need women to participate.
And do you think it's high time that Friday sermons should include such an important issue?
I think it should be,
especially in far-flung areas,
yes,
when there is poverty and people would rather have their child, girl child especially, work somewhere rather than going to school.
I think at the administrative level, at the government level, at the state level, we should create a big fund to create women education, a big fund and a big you know, environment and infrastructure to have you know, dedicated universities for women, dedicated colleges for women, where women can go and, you know, take education freely. So, you know, of course, we've got, I'm not saying anything against co-education at the moment, but I do.
But there are some cultural restraints, so that they should have that kind of freedom as well.
Of course, they should have independent hospitals ran by women, independent education institution ran by women, you know. So this is going to make it all the more faster, because, you know, there are cultural taboos over here. We have to deal with them. In order to, you know, bypass those culture taboos, we need to give them funds. We need their leadership to come forward and take charge of that.
Very significant point raised by Mufti Imran. But Dr. Rashida, when we talk about Pakistan, out of school girl children are, figures are around 13, over 13 million. But when we look at the GDP that allocated to around 2%, which is way less than what World Bank says it should be. It recommends around 4.5%. What needs to be done by Pakistan at this point in time regarding education? Because we keep on talking about having education emergency in Pakistan, but what practical steps are needed at this point in time, especially after this significant international conference?
Okay, Maryam, before answering the question, I think we forget here Malala Yousafzai. She was, I think her presence was as a global ambassador for the girls' education was a clear answer to the Afghanistan, because you better know and everyone knows that how she was hardly survived. And the second answer is that this summit has collaborated international community and Muslim community, and I think so with the international communities, World Bank, and United Nations and other agencies will going to work on this and make it effectuate in a way that the Muslim nation will combat this issue.
Can I add to
Right, right. Thank you very much, Dr. Rashida Jabeen, for joining us in today's program and your valuable input. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say there's two big things that have happened in Pakistan for girls' education. For the first time, we have published a report with Ministry of Federal Education, which is on girls' education statistics, which is a real-time data from every province. And it's looking at everything from out of school girls to dropout to learning, then looking at areas such as digital inclusion, and then really going deep down in data. So first of all, we really lacked, as a country, we really lacked the data. So now the data is available. So the government has done great work on that. And then the second step that happened on the launch of the report was that the announcement for the Girls' Education Task Force. So Pakistan now has a Girls' Education Task Force. So everything is happening.
It was established in June 2024.
It was in August.
Okay.
In August. So there's an Education Task Force, and then there's a Girls' Education Task Force, which basically emphasizes on the fact that when we're talking about girls' education, it needs a special initiative, it needs special working, it needs a special gender responsive programming. And that has been really sort of a positive step. I'm a member of that task force. I've supported the Ministry of Federal Education in having that set up, and they have been the government has been very forthcoming. And now the conference has happened, so everything basically has happened very nicely, step by step, and inshallah now Pakistan will have a very clear girls' education action plan based on real-time data in terms of where the gaps are and where the investment is needed. And that's where you then plan out properly, have a 10-year plan, for example, to say what kind of collaborations we need.
And let's talk about that task force. Fajar, of course, there is a need for collaboration amongst government and NGOs in regards to creating that kind of framework. So Pakistan, of course, we know is facing educational poverty at this point in time. What does stats say?
Well, the last figures were 75% learning poverty in Pakistan, which is absolutely, it's not good. When we look at just last 10-year data, you
even
see,
if we compare it to our regional peers like Indonesia, Bangladesh.
Unfortunately, the right investment in education hasn't gone in. If you look at the figures, from everyone, all times, we see that education investment has actually decreased. So right now, the education budget is well under 2%. It should be well over 4.5%. So, but the good thing is there's realization there, and there's better planning there, and we should start seeing better investment, better programming. better training. There's a lot of things that needs to happen to improve the system and ensure that girls, every single girl in Pakistan has access to education.
And since you were talking about the stats, I was looking at some stats and I was reading that in higher education, more girls are enrolled in universities than boys, and it was over 62%.
Yes, and they perform better.
Are these data clear? And in what regions are these concentrations more?
That's urban regions, really. So Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, Peshawar. You know, these are your hub of universities where girls are entering education. But it's very interesting trajectory you see when you look at the figures. So you have, you know, almost 52% of the girls are out of school right now. So once you look at the stats, you see that, you know, from the enrollment that actually happens, the girls get enrolled, but then a high number drop out after completing primary education. So that number keeps increasing. You see, it's a very sharp decline, very sharp dropout ratio. As the girl gets older, the more girls get dropped out. But when it comes to university level, what we see is there's larger number of girls enter university than boys, and they perform better in their achievement and learning as well, but we don't see that translating into economic activity. So it's a very, it goes like this, you know, when you look at our figures and statistics, it's very interesting, and you can see very clearly what needs to be done at what level, at what age group, to ensure that every girl is enrolled to start with, then she stays in school and the quality of education is good, and she goes into university or maybe technical education, whatever.
Or contribute to the society.
Of course, absolutely. I think, you know, that needs to be a basic human rights issue. If a girl wants to be a doctor, we need to be, the society, the government, the country, we as individuals, we need to be able to support that. If she wants to be an engineer, we need to be able to support that, because just like Mufti Sahab wanted to be a Mufti, he's become a Mufti. And I wanted to become a girls' education activist. I am a girls' education activist. So if somebody else in a rural area,
every girl should have a right
to achieve her
dream
dreams,
and of course achieve that dream as well. Mufti Imran, lastly, when we look at extremist ideologies that are of course many times in Western media attributed to of course Muslim communities, what role at this point in time education can play to dispel those misperceptions, and especially looking forward, how can like you told us about a lot of examples from Muslim history, how can such examples like historical rather horizontal contribution of Muslim leaders like Hazrat Khadija Raziyallah in the Islamic societies at the time can be told to the world at larger level? What role can media, what role can NGOs play at this point in time?
The purpose of Islam to be revealed to the humanity was to remove extremism. Islam is a deen of Allah, actually created by, revealed by Allah, and how in the world would He want extremism to prevail in the world? Rather, you know, Islam is against all the extreme ideologies, all the extreme actions. Islam is pro-jihad but anti-war. This is very important. Islam is pro-jihad.
This distinction has to be.
Is anti-war. The war is only allowed to cut down people who go towards extremist ideologies. So wherever Muslim forces have gone because of disparity, you know, against you know, tyranny. The second thing is how education can play an important role. You know, Ali Radiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu fought against Khawarij, and these Kharjiites had an extreme ideology. They were giving fatwas of kufr on Na'uzubillah on Hazrat Ali and Hazrat Muawiyah. Hazrat Hazrat Ali made sure that these extremists either they lay their weapons down or they face face the wrath of the Muslim army. So the reason we are allowed to lift sword against extreme ideologies gives us a reason to be educated Islamically. You know, Khawarij used to say,
But coming back to, since we are short of time, coming back to the significance of girls' education moving forward, what needs to be done overall? Because this was the first conference, and many more are going to be lined up.
I would just recommend the political elite of Pakistan to make sure to give appropriate funding as well as appropriate infrastructure for women education. This is the best bet that we have, and it is going to transform our nation into a highly, you know, out of school society to a highly school going society and education society and university. You know, most of the investment should not go towards, you know, at the moment, this is an emergency, towards developmental projects. Rather, they should give 15 years or maybe 20 years program for education, where we should create an emergency, give women empowerment to create universities, to create you know, separated education institutions for women and for men, and give them in the next 20 years, our target should be no one child should remain without a polio drop and university education.
Right. Thank you very much, Mufti Imran Sandhu, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Fajar, Rabia, Pasha, for joining us in today's program. Of course, when we talk about Islam, it is a religion of peace and knowledge, and every girl has a right to education, and no girl should be denied her right to education, because it is like denying her right to her future. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care.